Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hooty Hoo KSU football podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Nichols. Thanks for joining us this week. Took a week off there, had the bye week. Oh my goodness, still a bye week. I have a lot to cover tonight as we head into the game on Thursday. Right now, it is Tuesday evening around 7:30, so I want to get this done this evening. I'll post it tomorrow to all the platforms. By the way, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, I could not upload my most recent video podcast, and I don't know why. I tried about a dozen times, so that's why I put it on so many different platforms. So TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. The audio podcast is on any podcasting platform, whether it's Apple, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, it is there. So if you do follow me on X, and you did not see the recap of the third victory in a row, the Victory Cast, our third one this year, which is awesome, please check it out on a different platform. I don't know what is going on with Twitter right now, but it is definitely the worst of the platforms to post on. Not only how long it takes to upload, but sometimes it just doesn't go through. A service that you pay for, not blown away with that one. All the other ones are great. Easy, takes just a few minutes, so check it out wherever you can access it. Like and follow on any of the platforms. Check out the Etsy store. I kind of renewed a lot of things, I think just the other day, so there should be some new items up there. So please check it out and support the show. Anything that is purchased goes directly back to the production of the show so we can continue to bring you this content. Had a couple comments over some podcasts here recently. I think, let's see, going back, one was that I said Indiana University instead of the University of Indiana, so my apologies. They're a good team. The other one was just some suggestions, which I'd heard a few times, was to see if we can get some hosts on from other programs that we're going against. So, for example, a couple weeks ago we done Middle Tennessee State. This week, find someone to do a podcast with from Louisiana Tech. It's a good idea. It's something I'll definitely look into. Start reaching out and seeing if we can kind of connect instead of me telling you about another team. Let them tell you about the other team and the opponents that we're facing. So I definitely have to get on that. Thank you for the suggestions. Thank you for the comments and the feedback. It is always read, always appreciated. So thank you. Thank you for the likes and follows. Just to recap this past weekend real fast, since we're right here. Penn State, my goodness. I saw a stat that this is the fifth time this has happened since the 50s. I think the last time it took place was maybe in the 80s, that a 0-4 team beats a team ranked in the top 10. Crazy. And for any of you who saw that game, just like any of us who've watched enough college football, you watch these teams that struggle and they show up for a quarter or so and then depth catches up to them and that's a wrap. And that's usually what happens. That's why I pointed out against when Kennesaw State was playing against Indiana, is those teams just have so much more depth and every single level is, such a higher talent level than your second and third string. But, as I started watching that Penn State UCLA game the other day, it was the 3:30 window, UCLA was going up and down the field on them. It was having no trouble with that defense. And again, Penn State's offense is just really lacking. If they can't run the ball, they're done. So, shocking. Texas losing at Florida, that one wasn't nearly as shocking. The Swamp is one of the more challenging places to play in the country, without a doubt. And Florida has a good bit of talent. Whenever they decide to put it all together, they are a heck of a team to be up against. So, wasn't shocking. Clearly, Texas is favored in that game. They have the second coming of Joe Montana at quarterback. I didn't want to say Peyton Manning. And still nothing. So, the Associated Press did the right thing for once, and they dropped both of them out of the rankings as they should. Both of those teams' schedules have been a joke this year. In fact, Penn State's strength of schedule is one back of Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State has a harder strength of schedule than Penn State does. Now, let that sink in. Now, we know we played Indiana and what they are. Wake Forest, still not having a great year, but still they're kind of 500 right now. A ridiculous loss to Georgia Tech, by the way. I think I mentioned that last time. Let's see. We played Merrimack, beat them. Played Middle Tennessee State, beat them. We played, I've forgotten already. We played Arkansas State, beat them. Penn State has played no one. Villanova, not in basketball and football. That's not going to get it done. Yeah, there's a lot of bad teams that they've played. So, like I said, good on the AP to get them out of the top 25. It's the right call. The nightcap was Florida State, Miami. Miami is a good team. I mean, Miami is a good team. And the scary thing about Miami is going into Tallahassee to play Florida State. This is not an untalented Florida State team. It's not last year's team by any means. So they're a decent team, but just dominant. I mean, just dominant. I mean, that game was over. 28-3 at the end of the third quarter, game over. And, listen, at 14-3, it seemed like the game was over. And it seemed to be. Now, Florida State rallies late when Miami's playing back, but that was a blowout. That was complete one-sided, so don't forget that score down the road looking at Miami. And Miami just comes in like it's a business trip. It just takes care of business. They were not bothered by Florida State. They were not rattled. They just did whatever they wanted to do and just kind of went on down the field at their own pace. Ate up some clock. Yeah, Miami's good. Miami's really good. Definitely a team to watch out for. They kept saying they're a complete team. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if they're a complete team or not. I've watched Beck enough to know that against a solid defensive front, getting pressure, and this is true with any quarterback, don't get me wrong, but he has a tendency to make some pretty catastrophic errors. That's happened with Georgia over the last couple of years. Yeah, but when he's got time, he'll pick you apart. He'll throw it accurately. Miami's going to be a tough out for sure for somebody. So whoever they play, who's going to knock them out will definitely have a pretty significant defense because they're really good. Their defense is really good for that matter. Both those ends. The Tony kid at wide receiver, the freshman, is like a blur. I mean, he is the real deal. So anyways, those were the big takeaways from the weekend. Another great weekend coming up. But before we get to Saturday, let us talk about the Kennesaw State Owls versus Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. So the Bulldogs are favored by 6.5. They are traveling to Kennesaw, so this game will be another one at the Nest. Let's sell it out. Let's make it loud on there. Let's not make it easy on the Bulldogs coming into town. The over-under, or the total, if anybody's curious about that stuff, is 46.5, which kind of tells you what they think the score is going to be, somewhere like 26-20, something to that extent. So it's going to be on ESPNU. That'll be at 7 o'clock. So definitely, if you can't make it to the stadium, definitely check out the team for sure. So these are some interesting teams for sure. Now, I said a couple weeks ago, I think Louisiana Tech may be one of the harder teams on the schedule that's remaining. I'm looking at the schedule right now, and I still feel that way. They're a good team. They're a good team, and they've done well coming in with one loss, and that was to LSU. The other ones, they've won pretty comfortably. Now, they did struggle last week against UTEP. They were only up 10-0 in the fourth, and then they rattled off 20 points. UTEP ends up scoring 11, so the final was 30-11, but it was closer than you would have thought by the final. So let's go over some stats real fast with these two programs. So points per game, Louisiana Tech is averaging 28 points per game. Kennesaw State is averaging 19.4. Points per game allowed, you're looking at Louisiana Tech with 13.6 points allowed. Kennesaw State 23.2. Yards per game on offense that these teams are achieving is 312 for Louisiana Tech, 355 for Kennesaw State. Rushing yards per game, Louisiana Tech 148 is the average. Kennesaw State is 153 per game. Passing yards per game, Louisiana Tech 163 and 202 for Kennesaw State. Yards per game allowed, on average, 346 for Louisiana Tech, 402 for Kennesaw State. Rushing yards Per game allowed, 105 for Louisiana Tech, 153 for Kennesaw State. Passing yards per game allowed, 240 for Louisiana Tech, 248 for Kennesaw State. Third down conversion rates on when they're on offense, 23 of 69, so 33% for Louisiana Tech, 24 of 65, so 37% for Kennesaw State. Third down conversion rate allowed, 41% for Louisiana Tech, 32 of 77, 38% for Kennesaw State. Okay, so a couple things there. You probably caught this a little bit. First of all, we have to consider the score of the Indiana game because that throws everything out of whack. If you were to remove that score line, which you can't, but if you were, the numbers would be much higher for the total points per game for sure. It would also be lower with average yards rushing and passing for Kennesaw State's defense. But one thing that stands out is Louisiana Tech's defense is the real deal. So that is going to be one of the more challenging defenses that Kennesaw State's seen this year. Now, they're not going to be better than Indiana, but for Conference USA, they're a really, really good defense. Now, on the flip side of Louisiana Tech is the offense, which really does seem to struggle a little bit. Not a high generating points kind of team. You know, they'll win, but they'll take their time doing it. Their defense, though, is the key to that team. Louisiana Tech is averaging 4.7 yards per play. So 4.7 yards per play is what they're averaging for the season. That's ranked 116th nationally. For a counterpoint, Kennesaw State is averaging 5.3 per play, which is 74th overall nationally out of 133. This is a crazy stat, but Louisiana Tech's defense has been generating a good bit of points this year, and they have scored 5 touchdowns in 5 games. So the defense has scored 5 touchdowns in 5 games. Most recently lost one of their better linebackers, Kobe Fields, but Alonzo Jackson Jr. Has taken his spot. He's pretty solid, not the same, but still pretty solid. And we know what Amari Odom is up to. He's having a great season. He is healthy. He is practicing, so expect him to start on Thursday night against Louisiana Tech. So with this, this becomes big for the conference. I mean, I really think that this is probably one of the bigger games of the season for Kennesaw State. It kind of directs where this is going. You win this game, you're in first place, and you have a win over probably the most challenging person on your schedule. Western Kentucky is still floating out there. By the way, Delaware State may be wanting to do open trials for kicker, because I watched that game the other night, and that kicker is bad. If I was complaining about our kicker, that kicker's worse. He was no good, cost them the game when it was all said and done with. So let's dive into this game a little bit here. Okay, so we know 2 things that stand out immediately. One is that Louisiana Tech's defense is solid. We know that their defense scores points. So not only are they stopping teams from scoring, but they're also scoring themselves. So first things first is the offense needs to get out to an explosive start again, because Louisiana Tech's offense is not one that can keep up once in a shootout anyways. They're just not built like that. They're definitely a slower moving offense. In order to do that, you have to use your strength, which is your offense, versus their strength, which is their defense. You've got to be clean. You cannot turn over the ball. Now, this is true with every football game ever played anywhere, so there's nothing new here. Don't give up easy points. Don't give up silly turnovers and allow them a short field to score, especially with an offense that isn't that explosive. The defense for Kennesaw State has been rock solid this year, has been consistent every single week. They play hard. You want to the goal should be is to make Louisiana Tech earn it every single time. Pin them deep, punt the ball, play field position, make them go 95 yards on you, and just slowly go down the field. They have not been shown to be able to do that this year. But also definitely protect the ball. Definitely don't be careless. No easy points for Louisiana Tech, because if they get a lead on you, it's going to be hard to come back with how well that defense is playing. Let's talk about the home field advantage. The crowd needs to be in this. It needs to be loud. distracting for Louisiana Tech, supporting our players, giving them the opportunity to pull an upset. 6.5-point favorite at home would definitely be an upset, especially as a road team coming in favored by 6.5, which for those of you who don't know, the home field usually gives you 3 points. So if you're on a neutral field, they're saying that Tech is 9.5 points better than Kennesaw State is, just to kind of give you an idea of how the bookmakers see Louisiana Tech versus Kennesaw State. Since it is at home, it's a 6.5-point spread, but that's the way you win this game, is that you score. Obviously, you score early and make them feel the pressure to kind of keep back up. Now, in the last 2 home games, that's exactly what Kennesaw State has done. 28 in the first half against Arkansas State, 21 in the first half against Middle Tennessee State. Struggled a little bit more in the second half, wasn't as explosive, but the defense kept them in the games. They did not allow their opponents to catch up with them, even though they often seemed to be struggling in the second half. So that's the same recipe here. Go up by a number on them, a couple touchdowns, if possible, of course. They're going to struggle to catch up with you, and that's how you win. You get the crowd involved. You know, with any kind of an upset, you need some breaks early on. You need a turnover. You need a quick score. You need an explosive play, a deep pass. Any of those things can get the crowd really into it and would definitely give you that home field advantage, which it has been a home field advantage the last 3 weeks. So let's keep it going before we have to go back out on the road. Yeah, I don't know. This game concerns me a little bit. One thing I would say that I've noticed the last few weeks is, first of all, Odom is the truth. I mean, he is a good player, and so who knows? Depending on the type of game that he has will depend on what happens, obviously. But he has been just lights out the last few weeks, and if he continues on this pace, yeah, they're going to be hard to beat by anybody, honestly. Anybody left on their schedule especially. So this may be the biggest challenge defensively for what's left on their schedule. But, yeah, I mean, I think that it can happen. I think that they can get out to a lead early and hold on. I think that's a very real possibility. It just, you can't feel the pressure and you can't feel, I don't know, you can't feel the desire to try to make silly plays, like home run plays. I mean, the ideal drive is something that both ends with a score, a touchdown, but also eats up a little clock because you don't want to give them time. So it's tough, and you want your defense well rested because you want them to be explosive and fresh when they're going out there, which is where the turnovers come in, is a lack of turnovers. And Kennesaw State has been turning the ball over. So got to be careful with that, got to have ball security. If those things come together, and Kennesaw State plays their A game, I'd say Kennesaw State 24-21. It's just a feeling. Again, I always say that. It's just my gut feeling about certain things. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But I am going to be watching immediately how the offense moves against this defense. Are the drives sustainable? Is it 3 and outs? Or even if we don't score, we move the ball, we're able to get on their side of the field, punt them, pin them deep, like a 9-play drive, a 12-play drive, something like that would be a good start, because sooner or later there will be a crack. If UTEP can score on them, Kennesaw State can certainly score on them. But, yeah, I think that this is a good matchup. This will be their Louisiana Tech's most challenging matchup since they lost to LSU. So I want to check something out real fast and just check out that schedule, because I went through it today, but I wasn't blown away with the teams they were playing. So Southeast Louisiana is who they started off with, blowout. At LSU, they lost. New Mexico State, who's struggling, wasn't close. Southern Miss, they beat pretty handedly, and that actually caught my attention because Southern Miss is not a bad team. I mean, they're not horrific, right? And then UTEP is having a rough season. So, yeah, this team's capable. Like I said, this is probably your favorite right now to win Conference USA. But, hey, you got to win it. That's on paper, not on the field. In all seriousness, come out, support the team. Let's get this win. 4 in a row. I mean, what a homestand that would be. 4 games at home, 4 wins after starting 0-2 against the hardest teams you play on your entire schedule. Just amazing. Yes, the Wake Forest game will continue to frustrate me because they should have won that game, but we're at 5-1 right now, talking about one more game to be bowl eligible and, really making a name for yourself. But here is these moments. It's this week, and it's the week and a half when I think we play on Tuesday next, which is, let me check that date real fast, but I know that it is a Tuesday game, so it's kind of a week and a half break in between it. So we play at FIU on October 21st, which I believe is a Tuesday. But here's what I said in the winter. In February, I remember saying this, is that this game on Thursday on a major network is easily accessible with fans across the country. So give them something to watch. Give them something to talk about. Get this name out there. Instead of it just being a little box at the bottom of your ESPN feed when you're watching, like, Alabama, Georgia, for example, you say, Kennesaw State beat Middle Tennessee State. And you're like, who is, I know I've heard Middle Tennessee State before, but who's this Kennesaw State? Well, now people can see who they are. And that's the key. We got to get our name out there. We've got to get us on television so that we can make a name for ourselves so recruits are more interested in coming here. I have this feeling, and I've had this feeling for a while, and you're starting to notice it, and I kind of brought it up last time, but I really believe that what you're seeing right now is just such an even playing field across college football that there is no super juggernaut team that I've seen. And with Penn State getting beat by UCLA, that kind of confirms that, because I was kind of thinking Oregon, but apparently not. Miami is the best team I've seen this year on both sides of the ball. I can safely say that. I've watched them now 4 times, and they're the best team. They're the most complete team I've seen for sure. But, playoffs get here, who knows? Miami is going to the playoffs unless the wheels literally fall off. But it just amazes me now with this sport how these teams are just so well spread out that there isn't this juggernaut that no one has a chance again, like in Alabama or Georgia from a few years ago. So, it's wide open. This is the halfway point of the season. So let's get that win. Let's make it 4 in a row. Let's take over Conference USA. You get this win against Louisiana Tech on Thursday at home, and this schedule is shaping up really nice. At FIU, that's a win. UTEP, that's a win at home. At New Mexico State, tough road game. That should be a win. And at Jacksonville State, it's a rivalry. We'll see about that one. Missouri State at home, I like that. And Liberty is terrible. So, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I'm getting a little too excited. I can feel it. But I'm just saying that our goal has been 6-6, and I've said 6-6 since February of last year, 6-6. You get this win, that number rises. How can it not, right? We're talking 8 wins, maybe more. What a crazy turnaround that would be. But first things first, let's get the win against Louisiana Tech. I'll come back on here the day after, so I'll be on here on Friday just to kind of review the game itself, how things went, pros and cons, whatever we saw. Definitely check it out. Definitely come to the stadium, support your team, and go Owls. Let's get this win. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it. I'll get this out to you right away. I apologize, anybody watching on X, that the podcast wasn't up last week. Again, please access it somewhere else. I will put this one up there. Hopefully it goes through. If not, I'll make a note of it on my account. Follow us on all these platforms, on YouTube, on X, on TikTok, on Facebook. Anywhere that podcast can be heard, it is there. Just look it up. And thanks so much for your support. I look forward to talking to you again. Take care, y'all.